So the first question is, we're talking about timelines for conducting an evaluation, which means what happens in an evaluation. So this is my first question to us. Perhaps maybe if you know the answer to this, you can put it in the chat box. You also get a prize as well. Where do you actually find the indicative timelines for an evaluation? We've done this before as part of our past brown bag. Like, if you're an evaluator, either you're an independent consultant or you're working for a consulting firm, there's where you would first see. So for example, if there's supposed to be an evaluation on an agri project in a country, you will see the indicative timelines for that evaluation somewhere. Where would you see the indicative timeline for that evaluation? If you know, I'm going to just give us 30 seconds. Type it in the chat box. Where do you find indicative timelines for an evaluation? So not the one you as an evaluator would eventually use to carry out the evaluation, but maybe the one, so let me move closer now, that those that want you to conduct the evaluation are thinking about, like, this is what we want. So for example, if it's a, let's say a cotton project, cotton project in XYZ community, but maybe after 3 years, they want to conduct the evaluation. The commissioner then comes up and say, oh, we need an evaluator to conduct the evaluation of this cotton project amongst young women in XYZ community. There's a place where you will see that so there will be several things, evaluation criteria, perhaps maybe the indicative budget, maybe the criteria for the evaluator they're looking for. There is also the timeline for the indicative timeline, like, oh, we think this will happen at this time, this will happen at this time. Where would you find that, this indicative timeline? In what document? What do we call that document? Who knows? If you know, you can type in the chat box, 30 seconds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sanam said work plan. Abimbola said log framework.
I don't understand.
15 seconds. Somebody said he doesn't understand. There's a document where you will see indicative timeline for carrying out an evaluation. When an evaluation is to be carried out, especially when the commissioner of the evaluation wants an evaluator to evaluate, they normally publish it in a document like this is the indicative timeline. What is the name of that document called? Somebody said work program, logical framework. Oh my God. 5 more seconds. Israel said evaluation report. Non-pillow. Thank you so much. So it is actually in the terms of reference. We call it the request for proposal at times, most times, request for proposal. So you will see it actually in a request for proposal. And I'm going to show us, so let me show us. So non-pillow, thanks a lot for answering that. Our team will get back to you. You have a gift, but we will reach out to you on your gift. Thank you so much. So let me show us the request for proposals, some of them, and you will see some of these indicative timelines in them. So I will, let me see, let me stop sharing. And so I'd share my screen again. So I hope we can then see my screen. So I have like 3 terms of reference, or you call it RFPs, open. So this is, let me see, and I mean, these are evaluations conducted by Cloneshouse for the ones that we've applied for in the past. You can see in terms of reference, evaluation of IBP, training, public accountability for resource and knowledge pack program, March 2022. In every times of reference, I mean, for whoever is putting together terms of reference, I would urge us to mute. I think there's a noise coming from somewhere. It's important that we mute so that we can enjoy. So if you go down, you can see evaluation scope. You will see, yeah, the scope is like the reach of the evaluation. Evaluation questions, very, very important. Deliverables. So you see something like, so this is also something like it that relates to your timeline. Then you see evaluation management, quality assurance, and timeline. So you will see some can be mixed match, never mind. Everybody that writes an RFP is not an evaluator, actually. So you see all the things that are supposed to happen in this. You can see evaluation, inception, report and workshop, quarter 2, draft entry, case studies, final evaluation report, contribution of evidence, blah, 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 workshop. That is indicative. It does not, in the proposal that you will then write, you need to give an elaborate timeline, but factoring in this indicative timeline. In fact, most times you can propose some things are not always in terms of reference, but you need to propose just to show your own knowledge about what needs to happen. So that's when I just showed us. This is also another request for proposal for facility study saving lives of mothers and newborns in Nigeria. So even looking at the content already, you see timeline. You go to, so you see a small timeline here. What should happen? Kickoff, field work, consultant, submission of draft report, blah, blah, blah. That is indicative. Let's also go to, oops, this is actually even at the timeline already. But this is evaluation of the joint SDG program on maximizing social protection in Nigeria. Also a request for proposal. You can see the timeline. So work plan indicative time frame, right? So you see all this inception phase, data collection, report writing, like 11 points in it. So most times if you're reading an RFP, please, if you want to become an evaluator, you need to be looking at and reading several requests for proposals. It's very, very important. So I'm going to stop share at this moment and then go back to the presentation. I'm trying to see if I can share my screen again. Share screen. Okay. So you get your indicative timelines in the RFP, which is the first place to start, right? If you're also responding to that request for proposal, or if you're going to be part of the team that will carry out that evaluation. But theoretically, there are actually 3 phases in the timeline of an evaluation. The first is the inception phase, and I'll show us, I'm going to show us now what is under each phase, and I'll put it in the timeline on one of the work plan or timeline that we developed before. The inception phase, which is where you have, under it, you can have contracting, you can have, there's something we call the inception meeting. There's also the inception report. Under it, some people hire, that is when you hire data collectors, that is where you hire other consultants and all that. Then you have the implementation phase part of an evaluation. Under this implementation, you could have, yes, the design of, it could be the stage at which you're designing some of the instruments, data collection instruments that you're supposed to use. Also, that is where you design your interview guides. That is when you do field work, large field work, going to the field to administer questionnaires, going to the field to administer, to conduct interviews, going to the field to observe what people are doing. And I mean, in this world of COVID, it could be the time you're doing online interviews, deploying your online surveys. Also at this implementation stage is when you write your draft reports, your final report. It is also the time you go back and forth with the commissioner of the evaluation, that is who owns the evaluation, and also beneficiaries, go back and forth with them, check, you do validation workshops. Then you have the utilization workshop, which is majorly focused on the time you conduct closing meetings or closing workshops, which focuses on what you're recommending as an evaluator for what should change in that program and why you're recommending it. And also some people use it like a way to go, like what are the next steps? Can we design what the next step is for that particular program? We call it the utilization phase. And this utilization phase is not always common in evaluation. But one thing we should know as an evaluator and someone who is in the profession is that, so the irony, one irony is that some of our evaluations are not being utilized, it's not being used. Some of the recommendations is not being, and that is the truth about it. But I mean, as a profession, our work is to make sure that the recommendations we provide is being used. And that is why this utilization phase is very, very important. Even though we might have submitted the reports, it is our role, our job to see that the commissioner make use of, or you plan, design a pathway for them to make use of some of, if not all the recommendations, at least one, at least two of your recommendations. So that is in brief what goes on, but I'm going to stop share and show us actually I hope I'm seeing some things in the chat box. I hope it is not coming from me. Okay, I think the noise is not coming from me. So now I'm showing you, and I'm going to explain to us that some of this might be super reduced, not up to this. So in the inception phase, of course, this is actually live. So just for us to note, this is a timeline for an evaluation. We are starting this month, actually. But I can't tell you the title, I can tell you the evaluation also, but just note that. So, and that's why this September, October, November, December, is actually real. Like we are going to start in there. So, so you have the finalization and signing of contracts. Okay, so sorry about that. I think I had glitches. So I'm just going to quickly run through. You can see the inception phase, finalization and signing of contract. I mean, it's part of it also. You need to sign the contract before you start evaluating. Yes, the commissioner will share so many documents with you, project reports, a whole lot of documents that should help you. I already mentioned, yes, there's a kickoff. It could be meeting, it could be workshops, depending on who were involved in the program or the project. So you have a meeting to get clarification on things, because the proposal you submitted earlier doesn't necessarily, you are not writing it in the point of knowing everything about the program. But this meeting would allow you to know, especially who you would interview, where they are, who are the people that you need to administer surveys to, where they are and all that. It will allow you to plan properly. You can then review some of their documents and do some data mining also as well. In the inception phase, yes, you develop data collection tools. So your interview, your questionnaires, your interview guides, your focus group discussion guides, your observation checklist, it is at this stage you will develop it. Some people put it at the implementation phase also. Yes, if you have a question, raise up your hand. We'll come back to it. Setup of questioning. So at the implementation phase is when I say you roll out your surveys, your key informant interview guides, you do data analysis, data auditing, validation of data collected, data cleaning, triangulation of data. I would also say that is when you write your reports, the closing meeting, feedback, and all that. Then you have the utilization phase where you have the closing workshops after you submitted the reports. In fact, at times before you submit the report, you would have some meetings with the owners of the evaluation. Yes, that normally happens, like back and forth. You can have up to 3 meetings to review maybe your data analysis deck, to review your draft reports, to review your final draft that you're putting together. Some at this point, you can even have 5 different final report drafts. Yes, based on comments. Then you then have the closing workshop, utilization phase. You have meetings for them to actually respond or to make use of your recommendation. So this is a typical, this could be turned into 4 steps. If you're doing a rapid evaluation, for example, if you're not doing an utilized focus evaluation approach, you might knock off this utilization phase. Yes, some people knock it off, depending on what the commissioner wants. On this note, I'm going to pause a little bit. I need to switch my power source. Please give me like 4 minutes. You can put in your questions and your questions in the chat box. Oh, it seems my power source has been installed already, so I think I don't have a problem with that. Okay, so I think we can get into some questions now. Yeah, because that's the end. But before I finish, I recommend some books. This is one of the best books you can actually buy or find online. If a member of the Cloneshouse evaluation community, this is a very good book for you. Evaluation Essentials by Marvin. If you're just getting into evaluation, it talks about so many things, timelines of evaluation, what happens in an evaluation. In fact, the reason why I like the book is that the book was written in a way that he wrote about a whole evaluation, like one topic, one evaluation, like evaluation of XYZ, and he used that to write the book, like everything that happened or that should happen. So things like evaluation questions, timeline, how to develop a questionnaire, how to develop a key informant interview and all that. this is a very good book for you. If you're a member of the Cloneshouse community, you can have the e-copy for free. We have that free. Another book I would recommend is actually Program Evaluation Theory and Practice by Donna Mertens and T. Wilson. This is a very good book if you want to know about different types of approaches to evaluation with their timeline. So because the timeline changes based on the approach you're actually using. So these two books, I will strongly recommend that you get out of it, either online, the online versions of it. There's also the page, the physical book. Yeah, some of us like reading the physical books, of course, because for referencing. So question time. So in summary, let me just quickly say, if you want to see different types of timelines, where you will find it is in request for proposals, or what we call terms of reference. In your timeline, just like the one you're seeing, there are three. The timeline is divided into three phases. The inception phase, which is when you're signing contracts, doing inception meetings, trying to gather more information about the evaluation, and also where you develop your data collection tools, is also when you write the inception report and submit to the commissioner. Inception report is actually the report that talks about what exactly you will do in the evaluation. The proposal you submitted won't be the final one, won't be the actual. The actual will be the inception report, because after the kickoff workshop, or what we call the inception workshop or inception meeting, you will get more knowledge about the project. Then you can be able to write an inception report. It is that inception report you and the commissioner will agree on like, this is what you're going to do for the evaluation. Then you have the implementation phase, where you roll out your surveys, your key informant interview guide, your interview guides, and a whole lot of your instrument that you want to use to collect the information. That's when you also do data analysis. That's when you do data auditing, data validation. That's where you do data cleaning, triangulation, draft report writing, final report writing. You also hold some key meetings with the commissioner during that phase as well. Then you have the utilization phase, where you have closed workshops and meetings in order for the recommendation to be used.